cutting edge guests, awesome, uncensored, jaw-dropping information, plus funny memes, good deeds, and loads of laughter. Kind of have it all. Ladies and gentlemen, if your soul is awake, then welcome, because you're in the right place. Good day to you, ladies and gentlemen, and boys and girls. Welcome to the Sovereign Soul Program, a show which stands for love, levity, and liberty, because after all, love is the greatest power everywhere, and laughter's the best medicine, especially covering serious topics and all matters ancient, current, and quantum, right? Absolutely. It's a mantra our mascot, the Bling Buddha, he fully subscribes to it as he fires red pills from his 9mm. I am your host, Brad Wozni, and I am grateful to you divine lions and lionesses for tuning in. I've served my country at the federal level as a Canadian infantry soldier. I served it at the provincial level as a wildfire ranger, leaping out of helicopters to fight forest fires. I have been a part of the corporate rat race, where shortly after the 3 World Trade Center towers collapsed in their footprint, I stood at ground zero as rescue efforts went on. Then I was walking the halls of the Pentagon 72 hours later. I am fortunate to become a master of Yu Shui Reiki in 2015, and by leveraging the infinite source of the cosmic and our creator's power, I'm following my soul's purpose in this incarnation, which is to help uplift humanity's consciousness with song and story. With this stated, have an incredible show here for you today, very powerful and right up to the minute relevant. Before we get started, due to the extreme censorship, as we've lost yet another Instagram channel and video has been banned on YouTube, please subscribe to our Telegram at The Sovereign Soul Show to stay in touch, and also on our Rumble channel, which is The Sovereign Soul. Well, folks, it is a very frosty week for those people who continue to stay in the stock markets around the world. President Trump in Warren, Michigan, in his rally on Saturday, had just declared that this is the worst first 6 months that we have seen in the stock market since 1842. And a little fun fact for you, the New York Stock Exchange was opened in 1817. So literally, for almost 1.5 centuries, we have now seen the worst stock market performance in almost, 150 years. Numbers are there. It closed Friday, and today, Monday, it is not looking good for people who are in the markets unless you are in physical silver and gold bullion. Now, again, I'm bringing this to you as my opinion, my information. I'm not a financial advisor nor an investment advisor. Thank God I'm not one. I did, though, go to the public indoctrination camp known as Wilfrid Laurier University, and I was accepted there into their honors economics program and to do a minor in American political science during my service in the military. So I do have a little bit of an understanding from an economics standpoint. So here's the thing. I'd like to just boil it down because I like things really simple, not complex. We need to look at, and this is something you can share this show with any of your friends, your family, your peers to help them. Because 2 weeks ago on this show, I shared the clip where Harry Dent, who is the New York Times bestselling author of many economics books, he's an economist. And back when I was in first year university, in one of my economics classes, I did a thesis on boom, bust, and echo. Now, Harry Dent had shared 2 weeks ago, he said that in the 1930s depression, it took 25 years for the stock market to recover to normal, so that it took 25 years to get back to break even where you would have been, a quarter of a century, several generations and families, right? At least 2 of them is the equivalent. Right now, he said, and we're looking at it far worse than that. Actually, a global depression is where we are right now. This isn't about fear porn, though. This is about education and understanding so you can weaponize the financial capability that you have, if any of you have some cash, to potentially move forward very quickly right now. And hopefully it takes care of you, your family, and your loved ones. And awareness and being open-minded to other points of view and perspectives it's a great form of education, right? So take what resonates, leave what doesn't. Here's the thing. Let's go over to the United Kingdom right now, and I'll show with you what is happening there and the effects that's happening in the United States stock market and how everything has been rigged against us. Full-on red pill moments here, folks. Let's jump to this clip right now. Okay, what you're about to understand is bonds. Why is that important? Because there are several things people go to in a recession. Every recession, bonds being one of them, government bonds, because they are supposedly the safest. Well, here's the thing we're seeing in the UK government, and this is probably the best video that I have come across to explain this in about a minute, because the implications of this video, which you're about to see in the United Kingdom, have global repercussions. Here we are.
Of a 10-year gilt, a 10-year UK government bond, nicknamed gilt because the old certificates used to have a gilded gold edge. And according to traditional portfolio management, government bonds from developed nations like the UK are supposed to be some of the lowest risk assets that individual investors can own. So to see this kind of volatility is quite surprising. And it gets even...
I was going to share with you here. Okay, so remember back or you remember the history, if you did World War I, World War II, they were selling war bonds to finance the war. Right. And what it was is the government is backing the bond, saying, if you buy this right now, we guarantee to pay you back a certain rate of return over a certain period of time. Those were to be the most safest, although the returns were low, the most safest investment for your money. This is what we're talking about in the UK right now, the UK government bonds. Listen to these next few seconds.
Worse when you go to longer term bonds that are due over a longer period of time, with a 30-year gilt, for example, dropping 45% over that same time frame. This is by no means the only thing in the UK experiencing volatility right now. Just last week, the pound hit its lowest value again.
45% in 2 months.
Against the US dollar in history at $1.04. And outside of stocks being down, we've also seen some uncertainty in the space of mortgages and lending activity, with some products actually being pulled out of the market by, as well as importantly, pensions, where people's retirement savings have actually seemingly gone through the ringer this week, being put very at risk. So much so that just last week, the Bank of England intervened, promising to put forward £65 billion to purchase gilts or government bonds and to help stabilize the market, carrying out a complete 180 with its plan to shrink its balance sheet and carry out...
Okay, so quantitative easing. What is that? We've heard that in 2008 and 2009. It's literally just crank up the printing press and pour more money into the market so that people have more money to buy. But it also obviously reduces the power of the dollar. And by the way, you're about to see why that's relevant in their rigged system. Again, I believe system's rigged, and I'm going to show you why, and it's published to that fact. And also why we need to develop our own system. I'm not here advocating that you go do this, but there's something cool that's really coming. So here's the thing, quantitative easing is what they always do. I'm going to jump into another video and you will learn the power that they have where we, the people, need to take it back. Now, it's really important here. A couple of things. Remember, I've shared this multiple times before. The word government in English is derived from the Latin terms governus mentis. The definition, the translation in Latin of governus is to control. The translation in English of mentis is mind. So it's right there. We've been saying government. Well, to control mind. Here's another way they have been plotting and having fun with us this entire time. And this goes back a long ways, folks. We have all been fooled by these evil, some people call them banksters. I just call them evil nasties. Okay. Google Translate. Je parle petit peu français. Je m'excuse, I will not go into speaking French for everybody here. However, mortgage, what do we have? That again is a derivation of two words put together. You see here, the word mort en français means dead in English. What is it when we type in gage, pledge, mortgage, death pledge? So your mortgage is a death pledge, folks. Here is, you know what? We're gonna go right over here. Ray Dalio has been touted by several of the World Economic Forum financial folks as one of the greatest in the world, right? And definitely runs a very, what we see on balance sheet, successful hedge fund. Here he is in an interview 2 weeks ago, talking about how to survive and thrive in the upcoming financial crisis, something we've been saying ever since the very beginning we started this show, something Dr. Elliott, whom I've interviewed multiple times, and we're going to have him here on just in a few short moments, has been saying, and I have been looking at and shared on these economic updates every single week. You can look at residential mortgage-backed securities, commercial mortgage-backed securities, look at the paper, look who's buying the debt, and you can literally simply forecast when a recession is going to hit and then when you're going to have a boom market, as well as other factors. It's right there. Listen to how Ray Dalio describes the Federal Reserve. Pay attention, because this is all on Monday right now, where the Federal Reserve has called an emergency meeting to help this crisis. Folks, pay close attention to this. If people have not woken up, you definitely want to give them this backstory, these last few minutes in this program, and then have them watch these next 10 minutes where I've laid out the chronological about how the system is rigged, and then also how we can win as we the people.
Federal Reserve, I think most people think, is a department of the government, but they're not. Are they a private bank?
No, they're a part of the government that the system has put into place so to get the creation of money out of the political system.
Okay, so it sits sort of outside of the political sphere of the government?
It is within Congress, but it has a set of rules, like the Supreme Court has a set of rules. That means that the president can't control it.
That's all you need to know right there. Okay, so let's go over to what is the Fed for a second. Okay, here is your financial red pill moment. Now, this 5th edition was published of The Creature from Jekyll Island, just off the coast of Georgia. We're not talking about well, yes, we are talking about a monster. Jekyll Island, how the Federal Reserve Bank was created in 1913. And there are 4 agencies created in 1913 in the United States. Well, they're not really agencies. They're corporations. Isn't that interesting? The Internal Revenue Service, a corporation based in Puerto Rico. Then, as well, same time, the Federal Reserve Bank, itself a corporation, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and then the Anti-Defamation League. Let's focus on this, the Federal Reserve. Very interesting name, right? When one of my mentors said, read that book in 2006, totally the scales fell from my eyes. So I highly recommend just reading the abridged version of this or taking a look on YouTube online. For those of you who know, the Federal Reserve is a corporation that set itself up to, well, you know what? Let's just go to what former Chairman Ben Bernanke says the Federal Reserve is in a previous interview just over the last few minutes. Okay, what you're about to watch here of these next 90 seconds or so, folks, is the brother of Senator Representative Ron Paul discussing the Federal Reserve, what it did in the 20 years from 1913 from its creation as a corporation, from 1913 to 1933. What happened then, right? Yeah, the 1929 bank crash. By the way, everybody's seeing that this market right now will 85 to 90% of the current global market could be wiped out. All right. So understand this. This is very key for people to understand the history and how, especially, they don't have your best interests at heart. So Ron Paul's brother explaining it, and then former Fed Chairman Ben Bernanke right on the newscast.
Says, okay, USA, what are you going to pledge as collateral on the debt you owe me? What happened by 1936? Does anybody know? We instituted Social Security system, and you and I and our children and our children's children were pledged as collateral on the debt of our government to the Federal Reserve. And that's where we're at today. It took 20 years to make this country bankrupt, and since then, our government has operated under emergency powers of our government. It is not the president that makes the decision in this country. It's the Secretary of Treasury who turns around and is put in there by the federal to manage the
There, you just heard from him. You've heard from Ray Dalio. The Federal Reserve exists outside the president. You also are now hearing it from Ron Paul's brother. Listen in as he continues. The Secretary of Treasury makes that financial policy. He just said that. You also heard from Ray Dalio. Here we go.
bankruptcy. We've been in bankruptcy ever since. So to print $700 billion and to give it away, how do they get away with it? The manager of the bankruptcy is told by the Federal Reserve, this is the way to go. That's where we're at today.
What is the proper relationship? What should be the proper relationship between the chairman of the Fed and a president of the United States?
Well, first of all, the Federal Reserve is an independent agency, and that means basically that there is no other agency of government which can overrule actions that we take. So long as that is in place and there is no evidence that the administration, Congress, or anybody else is requesting that we do things other than what we think is the appropriate thing, then what the relationships are don't frankly matter.
Notice what Greenspan is saying. Greenspan is saying the Federal Reserve is beyond the law. And in reality, they are in practice beyond the law. Nobody, as far as I know, has ever audited the Federal Reserve. One of the first things we ought to do when we nationalize the Fed is go in there and find out the audit. Who stole money? Who engaged in corruption? There's a whole series of people going back to Volcker, to Greenspan, to Bernanke, and so forth.
Well, and there you have it. Okay, so I'm going to take it one step further on what are central banks. Gregory Mandarino just posted yesterday in a fantastic video. These next 110 seconds describe what is happening now live while I'm recording this. You're watching it in markets around the world from the central banks. Here he is.
Globally. So, I mean, when are people going to wake up? I don't, obviously this is not working. Raising rates is not going to do a damn thing. You and I knew this from day one. We discussed it right here, how this would not do anything. Again, what's the issue? It has nothing to do with rates. It's currencies collectively that are losing their purchasing power, and henceforth why we're seeing inflation. But again, it just disturbs me to the highest possible order that not one mainstream media, propaganda ministry, financial freaking dog shit, channel is telling people that it's an issue of the currency itself. It's not a rate issue, but you're never going to hear this. Again, it's all about deceptions, distractions. Look here, don't look here. For how many years? Some of you have been with me for a very long time. I've explained to you how they play the game. Look here, don't look here. So what they're doing right now is telling you, oh, look at what central banks are doing. They're raising rates because they really, really want to fight inflation, but they're not telling you at all how this is a currency issue, a race to the bottom. People, you know this better than anyone. I've been telling you for how many years now have you heard me explain to you that central banks are in a race to the bottom? They're all deliberately trying to kill their currencies. It's not going to stop. And this mechanism here, sending billions of dollars a year, funding this project with billions of.
Okay, now remember, 75 billion has been sent to the Ukraine by the United States government. Pay attention to what he's saying about how they move money and how they keep the veil and propaganda out there to believe that the government's in debt and that we need to do more to take care of it. And only central banks and the Federal Reserve can fix it. Watch.
That we don't have is massively inflationary. Understanding the mechanism here, people, every single fiat bill that is added to the current existing pool of bills is inflationary. How does a currency get its purchasing power? If you're new here, I'm going to tell you right now, it's another thing you're never going to learn. When the Federal Reserve makes a dollar, when they create it out of thin air, printed it, or digitally create it, it doesn't automatically become worth a dollar. It has to steal a fraction of 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 purchasing power from every other existing bill. So when you hear about billions of dollars going to fund a war, billions of dollars going to this project from Congress or this, whatever it might be, understand it's inflationary, and central banks are on a mission to continue to inflate. Forget about anything else. That is the goal.
Right there. They're on a mission to continue to inflate. Why? Right? Because when you are the one that goes out and you're like a soldier and you're working at your job, and there you've put the Canadian Revenue Agency, people joke about it being the Canadian Rape Agency for taxes, or the Internal Revenue Service. People say, I was just with people last week, said it's like the Internal Rape Service. By the way, read the 1871 Act if you're an American. Actually, if you're anywhere in the world, read the Declaration of Independence and then the 1871 Act. You will see how globally the system has been rigged against all of us. They have completely fooled everybody on purpose, right? So we can go out there, work hard, give them a good portion of their income, and then invest some of that income that we have in their markets that they raise, crash, take, cause panic, feed off the loosh, so to speak, right? And then we have to go out and bust our ass again. And hopefully that market doesn't happen again. Of course it does. Matter of fact, it behooves them. If you wanted to control the world from a financial standpoint and get rich off the many, as you are the few, what would you do? You would make them believe that they're doing this for the greater good, believe that they are helping to fund these good, greater good government projects and projects around the world. Some of them are, many of them we have seen aren't. Let me give you a case in point. It was September 10th. You can go back and you can see that then Secretary of Defense, Donald Rumsfeld, had come out in front of people and declared that there was approximately $2.5 trillion, September 10, 2001, $2.5 trillion unaccounted for in spending at the Pentagon. That was September 10, 2001. Where does all that taxpayers' money go? Where's it going? 2.5 trillion in 2001. Unheard of, right? Like barely anybody was throwing around numbers like that. It was like a prayer back then, wasn't it? All right, so here's a forwarded tweet from James Melville. Deutsche Bank and Credit Suisse are tanking right now, more than the financial crisis 2009. Here is the chart. Now remember, just 9 days ago on this show, this economic weekly update I had shared, you've got so much in global derivatives shorts positions outstanding. I mean, Dr. Elliott said that there's 7 quadrillion, not billion, not trillion. Quadrillion is above trillions. I mean, these are incredible numbers of debt outstanding. And so you can just see on their balance sheets, they cannot cover their positions. Like you're betting on a horse game, right? And you're saying, I've got $100 in my pocket, but I'm betting 1,000. You can't cover it. Same thing. So you can see the implosion happening. Now, what's really important and key, folks, we'll go to this next one, is looking right here. How many of you all remember for the last few years, many of the largest banks saying that cryptocurrencies are dangerous, they're risky and whatnot? Well, just in this morning, that the Basel Committee study revealed that some of the world's largest banks hold an estimated 9.4 billion pounds in crypto. On the last show I did economic updates here, we have unveiled and seen the reports that JP Morgan Chase Bank, and I believe it was Morgan Stanley out in their UK office, was buying up Bitcoin, even though the day before CEO Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan Chase is on record, on video, we shared a copy of that video here, saying, if anybody buys Bitcoin in my bank, they will be fired. That they went ahead and bought up billions anyway. So again, it's rigged against you. And what's really key to understand, everybody, is you need to go, as we've shared many times, with gold or silver. We are seeing a gold and silver backed currencies happening all over the world. The BRICS countries, Russia's been the largest buyer of precious metals gold since 2015. Regardless of what you think about them or agendas, understand this. We already have more than half of the world's population on a gold-backed standard. The country of Zimbabwe came out and printed a $1 trillion bill because they found trillions of dollars of gold in their ground in Zimbabwe. Even President Trump on Saturday said in Michigan, he said, we have gold beneath our feet. And he used the pointing down like this. So what's really important, because Buddha loves gold, precious metals is so key, is anybody who is American with 50 grand or more in their savings account, you can go and you could literally get up to $10,000 of free silver with our friends and sponsors at the Gold Company. You go to buddhalovesgold.com and you just fill that out right there. They will send you a free gold and silver IRA kit and show you how you could get up to $10,000 in free silver. Those are for Americans, 50 grand or more savings. All right, let's continue here and go to our wonderful Dr. Elliott, who had just shared this video just prior to me getting on this broadcast, and share with you what is going on, because we've got some crazy stuff in the real estate space, which we've been seeing is happening, and what to be prepared for there. Now, just to bring you up to speed, as I press play on Dr. Elliott's video he sent into us, banks in China are preventing everybody, nearly all the banks in China are preventing everybody from getting the money out of their banks, deposits. We've seen that in Lebanon. We've seen that in Sri Lanka. We've seen that in other banks. We've even had banks in the United States over the last several weeks let people know that there may be times when they cannot get money. In fact, right now, it's a blackout in Australia for certain banks, because we saw last week the Bank of England declare they were on the brink of bankruptcy. We saw the Bank of Australia declare they were bankrupt. And in addition to that, Australian Bank came out and said that we are closed from September 30 to October 5th. Right now, they're closed for technological improvements. Well, guess what? You can't go to your bank and get money or do transactions because of a technological improvement. Sounds very fishy. So here we go with Dr. Elliott on the current update, the way he sees it.
Account. It's not even tied to the markets, but yet as banks run out of money, they withhold those deposits from being taken out.
Right.
And so there's
they can't cover the money, your own money, when you want to take it out.
In China, socially right now, as the economic upheaval at the banks is commencing. Well, here in America now, we've had 5 rate increases in a row, a quarter, a half, 3/4, right? Only 5 of them. The end of last year, the Fed said that we were going to have 8 to 10. So we're only about halfway through. And look at all the damage that's already been done. This is why last week I said that the pin that was going to burst these markets and cause this collapse is going to be real estate. Well, this morning, home prices, the report came out on the S&P Case-Shiller Index. Home prices cooled in July at the fastest rate in the history of the S&P Case-Shiller.
Now, home prices cooled in July at the fastest rate. This is ever recorded. I've been had real estate investment companies, and the best time to be in real estate at any point in the time in the economy, whether you're a short seller or you're in foreclosures or you're in development, is the summertime, and the best month is July. Well, we've had the greatest cooling in the month of July. In addition to that, understand, we are expecting, like we shared in our last economic show, they're expecting over 2 million mortgages in the United States alone, adjustable rate mortgages, ARMs. Remember those things from the early 2000s, right? Well, those are expected, well, they actually are, they're set to reset, and over 2 million mortgage holders cannot cover the payments. That was from Bank of America, who shared that information. And remember, HSBC Bank CEO in August had shared they believe the price of silver should hit $100 an ounce. Right now, it's about 19 an ounce. Physical silver bullion, not index funds, not ETFs. Dr. Elliott and I have covered that so many times about how the game is rigged, where they will sell you the same index fund or piece of paper, an IOU, right? They might have one piece of silver, but they sell it 5 times, fractionalized investing in this rigged system. He has shared it. He has shown you the RICO cases, and it's been here on the show. Listen to this next part as well. And this, by the way, again, is why I really advocate you got to have physical silver and bullion, because the dollar is worthless right now. And what happens when we've seen countries where the dollar is worthless? People have to barter with shirts off their backs and everything else. Hopefully it doesn't come to that. In case it does, you need to be prepared. That's it. And we're seeing this as the greatest depression right now in the last century, perhaps ever.
Index. There's a 10 city composite down. It's basically, it only rose 14.9% year over year, down from 17.4% in June. So here's the thing. What is that's down about 15, 16, 17, 2.5% on something that's 17.5%. This is a big actual percentage rate deduction. I mean, it's huge. So you're looking at roughly a 20+% reduction in that growth rate in 1 month, right? So
the growth rate has dropped 20% in a month. This is what's key about these numbers, folks.
This is actually going to be devastating for the real estate market because we've only had 5 rate increases. We're going to get another 4 to 5 more probably. And here's where it starts to get even.
And you already know as well from the rate increases like Gregory Mannarino has just shared with you, they're not going to help. It doesn't help us as humans, as sovereign souls on the planet, but it certainly helps them. So as Dr. Elliott wraps up here, I'm just going to go back to it here and share with you. And this is literally right now, today, that came out on Bloomberg. For those who still want the mainstream news to see the validation, the verification, have that for you right here. We'll throw this up on the screen and then we'll wrap up with Dr. Elliott on his report and move along. All right, here we are. U.S. home prices now posting biggest monthly drop since 2009. Remember, the wave was starting to hit in 2006 and 7 after the dot-com bubble burst. And then 2009, remember, massive crashes. All right, so that was Bloomberg today. Here's Dr. Elliott wrapping up.
Change. In addition to the printing money like there's no end, like helicopter type money. So when you've got structural changes to the economy of deglobalization and helicopter money, inflation is going to be here for quite some time. I don't see an end to it. No matter what the Fed does to keep raising rates to try to slow it down, it's not going to work. So therefore, what do we do, right? So as you're looking at all of this, gold and silver do very, very well during times of inflation because they're things. You've got real estate that's hitting the skids. You've got the equity markets that are still coming down. As interest rates continue to climb, the bond market is going to get hit hard. So prepare, right? Take advantage of these trends so these trends don't take advantage of you. I would encourage everybody to get out of stocks, get out of bonds more, and allocate more into gold and silver. The silver in particular, because of the supply chain disruptions. We've got great prices this week. It's less than 19. It'll continue to rise. So give us a call, 720-605-3900, and get on our calendar so we can allocate properly. We can map out a strategy for success moving forward with your finances. God bless. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
And what's wonderful there with Dr. Elliott is he advises sovereign, benevolent billionaires around the world, all the way down to grandmother with 300 in her bank account as a client. So I really appreciate the fact they are everywhere around the world dealing with people to help them protect themselves and very likely prosper in terms of what we've seen with the suppression on precious metals prices with the RICO case that's going on against these big banks who have been manipulating the price year after year after year. And they are lining their pockets and not helping many people. Well, here we go. Physical silver, physical gold bullion. You can go back to my shows and you can see that with Dr. Elliott, and we are sharing all of that information as well. What's coming out with the RICO case, and then also indeed what is happening at the COMEX for those prices too. It's just wild. You just have to like smile, shake your head, and remember, you take care of you, right? You've got to have your best interests at heart. Hey, we've already seen the writing on the wall, folks, and that has been going on for a while. This is even just last week with Hassett. He's the former chief economist on the Council of Economic Advisors. Here, listen to what he is saying. I mean, this is all across the board. It's here. You know, the ship has not sailed. It's actually crashed into the iceberg and it's sinking. Pay attention and take some action.
And right now, the markets are down enormously. I guess we haven't seen today yet, about 23% for the year. And I don't think that's anywhere close to the bottom because the Fed is going to continue to raise interest rates and the White House is going to continue to be in denial. I absolutely think that President Biden should be looking at the markets. He should be thinking about why the markets are rejecting his policies. And then he should think about adjusting those policies. And until he does, then I don't really think we're going to see a bottom.
And here you go. Even you've just heard why the president isn't in control of really setting that economic policy. It is the chairman and the Federal Reserve Bank, which does so. And again, that just brings up another important aspect on why you've got to protect yourself. You go to buddhalovesgold.com. For anyone who's American with 50 grand or more in savings, you could achieve up to claim, grab up to 10 grand in free silver when you get your free gold IRA kit from our friends and sponsor at the Gold Company. Amazing people, great with follow-up and great with follow through. They have over 1,000 5-star reviews and they're AAA rated. Incredible. So again, anybody who's American with over 50 grand or more in savings, you know that inflation's putting your money at risk. But thanks to our friends and sponsors at Gold Company, you can still protect your savings with physical gold and silver. You go to buddhalovesgold.com and they'll give you 10 grand or more in free silver when you open a qualifying account as well. So what are you waiting for? Check it out. Now, those who are around the world, you can go to kirkelliottphd.com/soul. And right there on the form of the website, you can fill it out. If you don't have 50 grand or more in savings as an American, and you've got hope because anybody around the world could work with a firm. They speak to you. Here's the thing. We've had one person who booked their appointment and missed it. He just totally went, I spoke to him in person and he just went, oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. Well, I'll just call them back. They're booking 3-5 days out. They are so busy. He said in his 30 plus years and being, again, he's a 2 times PhD economist, sovereign economic advisor, right? He shunned Wall Street almost 3 decades ago, just like Gregory Mannarino, because he saw the wizard behind the curtains. And he's like, that is not cool to pull the strings on us human beings as minions. And he set out with his sovereign economic firm, right? So they are so busy. They've never been this busy. In the 3 decades he said he's been in business. So when you book your call, you schedule your appointment with Dr. Elliott, his firm, I definitely encourage you to make sure you lock it on the calendar and you follow through with that. It could be several days or a week or more until you have that conversation. It's just a conversation and a free consultation, but you're seeing how quickly the markets are moving. You're seeing the wealth of hard working, benevolent human beings being wiped out. And the wizards behind the curtains are laughing at us minions. So get a leg up, take control of your financial peak prosperity. And you can even have, it's just a conversation, or 50 grand or more in savings. Holy crap. Incredible. What an offer. Get up to 10 grand in free silver from our friends at the Gold Company. All right. One more video here to share with you to wrap it up, because here is another example of how much they are in control and how ridiculous it is that they are coming after us to control us. All right. First of all, this real quick report right here, because it's talking about the Federal Reserve. This is today. This is just a few minutes ago before I got on to record. This Federal Reserve is looking very closely at issuing central bank digital currency, CBDC. You should be very, very afraid of this if they rotate to this, and we need to stop this at all costs. They rolled out CBDC in China. It was shared just last week on our Telegram with a whole bunch of people. What they're doing in China, and Chris Guy did a great video on this as well. What they're doing in China is they're limiting the amount of time you can have your money in the Chinese CBDC wallet, limiting it. So imagine you don't just save $1,000 and you'll have it 10 years from now and it grows at a rate, 5% interest. My goodness. No, if you have $1,000, you have to use that $1,000 in a set amount of period of time. or it's erased. It's erased. CBDC is a digital wallet controlled by the government, right? Governus mentis, to control the mind. Wow. You should be very afraid that the Fed, a corporation, not your best interest, only theirs, right, wants to put you on the radar. And then they have you. They have everything about you, and they can lock you down like they locked down the Canadians who donated to the Canadian Freedom Trucker Convoy, including that woman in Chilliwack, BC, on welfare, supporting 2 kids, single mother, donated $25. They locked down her bank account, wiped it out, took it, as well as the money. And this is where it's going. So understand there is massive corruption on a global scale. It's all been rigged in their favor, not ours. And we, the people, can take it back by working with sovereign individuals on our behalf, benevolent. And that's why we have Gold Company as the sponsor of our program, as well as Dr. Elliott for anybody else around the world who isn't American and does not have 50 grand or more in savings. So we're here on Ron DeSantis's website. It's actually the governor of Florida, right? Regardless of your political affiliation, you need to understand Hurricane Ian was the most powerful hurricane in 500 years to hit Florida. For anybody who isn't aware of the track of a hurricane, natural storms kind of go up the coast of Florida. What Hurricane Ian did was move like a ping pong up from one side of the state to the next. Florida's skinny, folks. So everybody out there is wondering, how is that possible? How is it that a storm going up the Atlantic couldn't shift right over to the Gulf and then shift back over and continue up like this? Incredible, that storm track. Well, here it is with Project Cirrus. The government has admitted to manipulating hurricanes. In fact, my younger sister, Jen Wozni, who had taught at DOD, Pentagon, NSA, and did her PhD in intelligence analysis, who then went to work for CSIS. She was the one, my own younger sister, red pilling me in the early 2000s about HAARP, HAARP, a project which manipulates and controls the weather from all these base stations. We've seen these recent few months in the spring, China has announced it has weather modification and manipulation systems. The United States Air Force came out years ago and published a doctrine that they want to control the world's weather by 2025. Folks, it's almost 2023. So here's why this is important from an economic update. Here's why it's important you understand that governus mentis does not have your best interests, and why it's extremely important to wake up yourself, take care of yourself, like the oxygen mask on a plane drops down, you put it on you, and then you take care of others, right? That's what we're all about. So here's Peggy Hall from the healthyamerican.org, an incredible patriot based in and faith-based, beautiful, spiritually enlightened, based in California, discussing this. And then I've got the government websites to prove this fact, and it goes back over 50 years. Listen.
I'm going to take you right on over, and you're going to see a document. Well, let me take you right on over and we'll take a look there. And here we go. We're hopping right on over, and this is the Comptroller General of the United States. This is a document in 1972. It's a response to an inquiry made by a senator, Senator Schweiker. And it says, this is in response to your request of September 22nd. So think about that. How many years ago is that? 1971, about 50 years ago, for certain background information on cloud seeding activities carried out in the United States under programs supported by federal agencies. And I'm going to show you a second document that is very, very compelling. But here, I wanted to direct you where he is saying, yes, indeed, we have had federal agencies involved in cloud seeding and on the types of chemicals used for their seeding and their effect on the environment. We also obtained data concerning the extent of cloud seeding conducted over Pennsylvania. All right, this is 50 years ago, and
1971, running these tests.
So here's what I want to direct your attention to. Okay, several federal agencies support weather modification programs, period. There, the government is on record stating that they modify the weather. And this goes back many, many, many decades. This is just something that I pulled up and wanted to share with you. So major research programs, and this is 50 years ago, so you know that it's been accelerated. Why in the world would it go backwards? Here we go. It includes precipitation modification. Now, we don't know whether that means to reduce it or increase it. Fog and cloud modification, hail suppression, and lightning and hurricane modification. There you go. The name of my broadcast today is the government admits to modifying and manipulating and controlling hurricanes. And here you go. So I want to show you Here it is, lightning modification, hurricane modification. Now this is 50 years ago, so the numbers.
Okay, and the website she's on, just so I can show all of you, is the U.S. Government Accountability Office. So that's where she's also pulling this information. And we've seen the geoengineering, weather modification, all of those systems come out. It's interesting how they deny, lie, right? No biolabs in Ukraine. Oh, there's 42. Oh, you know what? All right. Yeah, you got us there. Yeah, we've been doing it. Decades. Weather modification, chemtrails in the sky. There's barium, there's aluminum. You know, no, you guys are all conspiracy theorists. You know what? Yeah, you're right. We've been doing that. But the sun is bad for you. Unbelievable, right? So again, folks, it's very key that you step into your sovereignty, you take yourself back, you share this with other folks that you love as well, to see them prosper, to move ahead, because it has been rigged against us. And yes, there's people saying Jassara is going to come in and it'll take care of us. Well, here's the thing, you know, God only goes so far. Our Creator goes so far. We need to take action and stand up, and you need to take control of your own life and stand up. And maybe Jassara comes in. Maybe it's 3 years from now. Why do you want to wait? Right? We know from the Encreatus, they can't see the future. They only see the potentials of the possible future. We create the future together as a collective and individually. So let's step into the vibration of prosperity, of abundance. Go ahead, check out those links, buddhalovesgold.com or kirkelliottphd.com/soul. He also gave the phone number there. You can call them for an appointment. So again, you got 50 grand or more in savings, in an IRA, 401k, you name it, in the United States. Check out the gold IRA kit. Maybe it could land you over 10 grand in free silver. How amazing is that? Or have a call with Dr. Elliott's office if you're anywhere else in the world where you don't have 50 grand. At least I feel we need to stand up. And this is one of the ways we do it, by taking back our God-given sovereignty, as opposed to the controlled systems they've put in place to force us all to work to benefit them rather than us. Thank you all for watching. Please do like, subscribe, share this. Wishing you all a blessed week ahead. And on behalf of myself, the team, and the Bling Buddha, it's all about love, levity, and liberty. So stay in that vibration of love. Make sure you have time to laugh and take it easy sometimes, because there is great freedom on the other side of this. The more we stand up, the more we push back by taking our sovereignty, the more they fail, and they will be gone for good. Much love, everybody. Thanks for joining us on the program, ladies and gentlemen. Please like, follow, subscribe, share this with 9 friends and family. And of course, if you enjoy our blinged Buddha firing red pills from his 9mm, let us know.